Hello, it's the 1st of July and I'm giving some thought to harvesting these onions. Coincidentally, it's exactly the same day that I did it last year. I'm not going to talk about the process of planting and harvesting because I've done that on previous videos. In the notes below there are links to all my onion related videos. The reason I'm making a film now is onion white rot. For the last 3 years I've been trying various ideas to deal with the problem of onion white rot, which first emerged, I first came across it here in 2021. It's 2024 now. Just to bring you up to date with that, here's a section from the video I made in 2021 which shows onion white rot on one of the onions that I harvested then. This is what the fungus looks like. You get this white fluffy material and the roots have disintegrated. I think I will try that experiment of watering the soil with some form of garlic mixture or onion mixture or something that contains the chemicals that allegedly trigger the fungus, so with the idea that that would activate the fungus and then it would die because there was no alliums for it to infect. Well, that's the problem. The approach I've taken this year is almost exactly the same as the approach I adopted last year and that I described on the video that I made on this day last year. Rather than you hunting around to try to find that, I'll show that portion of the video in a minute, which shows all the elements, or talks about all the elements that I've tried to put into place to deal with the problem of onion white rot. One thing that's different this year is that I've changed the variety of the onions. I used to use Setton onions, and the internet seems to be a bit conflicted about whether there actually exist any onion white rot resistant varieties of onions. Some sites say there's not. Premier Seeds Direct say Santero is resistant to onion white rot. There's a site called Quick Crop which talks of a variety of onion called Golden Bear. So I'm not sure what's true and what isn't, but these are Santero. So when I harvest them in a minute, and I haven't done any of that yet, so we'll see together what effect the onions have had this year, or what effect these approaches have had this year, and we'll see the results when I dig them up. So now let's have a look at the video that describes how last year's crop was raised and also how this year's crop was raised, with the exception of the change of onion variety from Setton to Santero. Hello, it's the 1st of July and today I'm going to harvest these onions. Conventionally one might harvest onions when about half the leaves have drooped over. These are slightly earlier than that. They're in pretty good condition, they're in their prime, and I'll come to the reason why I'm doing it slightly early in a minute. In the notes below I've put links to videos I did last year and the year before in relation to onions, and one of the issues that I had to deal with was onion white rot. This year I've put together all the things that I did to try to avoid the problems with onion white rot, and this bed is representative of it. Now, this isn't a plant research station, so I recognise that doing multiple things to deal with a problem means that any one or all or none could have actually helped in avoiding onion white rot. But what I've done, and it's the details of these in a lot more detail are shown in the other videos, is that last year in the summer I treated this bed with bag of garlic, which I'd granulated garlic, which I got from Amazon. There is a research paper noted on one of the videos below, which seems to indicate that putting garlic powder on the soil causes the fungus which causes onion white rot to think there are a lot of onions about, to begin its life cycle and then to die off when it discovers there aren't any onions to feed upon. So that was one technique I used. The other thing I did was cover the ground with weed suppressant fabric, so any spores, any of the fungus that was about might not settle on it. The third thing I did here was to do what I call a pot in the ground when I was planting. I've described that in relation to when I was planting these vegetables behind me. That's essentially coring out with a bulb corer a part of the soil and then backfilling that with new compost. So these onion sets were planted in brand new compost. And the other thing that I'm doing, as I explained at the beginning of the video, is to harvest them at their prime, because if there is any illness, infections, funguses that a plant can get, like human beings, they're better at fighting it off if they're in their prime and if they're well to start with. So I'm harvesting perhaps slightly early in order to hope that the onions, being at their best, will not have succumbed to any onion white rot which may have found its way into the ground.
There's two other things I could mention. One is that I've planted the onions in new ground this year that hasn't had onions planted in it for several years. Last year I actually replanted in the same bed as the year before, which was in part to try out the experiment with the garlic used in a bed which I knew had some problems with onion white rot, and that had some degree of success. But this year and from now on I'm going to be planting in a different bed every year. The other thing is that this year, generally speaking, I've gone over to using slow release fertiliser. I still condition the soil with blood and bone, but I'm hoping that by using slow release fertiliser the plants will be fed in a more regular and consistent way over the season.
Okay, well, we're back to the 1st of July 2024, and this is a random Santero onion from the bed. So let us have a look at what we're getting. Well, that's very good. I think we can safely say that it's in good shape, and there's no signs of onion white rot on that one. Okay, well, let's take a second one from the other side of the bed and more into the centre. Okay, yeah, I think I'd give this one a clean bill of health too. Now I'll dig up the rest of them and Perhaps you'll join me in a moment to see what the final result was. Well, I've just harvested 46 Santero onions. 43 of them were absolutely fine. Unfortunately, 3 of them do show signs of onion white rot. You can see the signs of the white material around the bottom of the roots. Actually, if you rub it a little bit, it pretty much comes off, so it's not really got too much of a hold yet. In fact, what I'll do with these is cut the bottoms off, and we can actually cook with the rest of the onion, and then the bottom bit where the white rot's been, I'll dispose of not in the compost. We'll get that well away, possibly burn it or something. But I think the results here show that perhaps this harvesting early is quite a useful approach, and it doesn't really affect the size of the onions. I mean, these are relatively small compared to the ones that are being stored at the moment, so you still get a good size onion even with, well, with Santero anyway, even with harvesting them a fraction earlier than one might normally do. I think next year I might even have a go with Golden Bear, unless I hear in the interim of some guaranteed resistant variety. Well, in conclusion, I've not defeated onion white rot, but I have won another substantial battle against it, at least sufficient for me to want to carry on the war for another year. Perhaps next year I might try Golden Bear as a variety and see what onion white rot affects that. Well, I hope you found something useful or interesting in this video, and if you've got nothing to do around the 1st of July 2025, do come back to this channel and see how I've got on then.